2, 1.
Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. It always perseveres. Love never fails.
We are live. We are live. We are live.
Hey y'all, everybody.
Hey. So excited. Welcome to Love Talks with Coach Dee. I'm your girl, Coach Dee. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And as you all know, we have a special guest in the studio today. All the way from Philadelphia, we have Ayesha Selden.
Hey everybody.
Welcome
Hi.
to the Love Talk studio, sis.
I'm glad to be here.
And welcome to your first week as a bi-coastal resident.
Bi-coastal resident, first week.
First week. So how's it go?
Well, for tax purposes, I'm still very much a Pennsylvania resident.
Okay, absolutely. Well, I said bi-coastal.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. I love it. I love LA. I love Philly. Philly's home. So it's cool to be able to escape good weather, have my family, have an opportunity to spend time here. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to just, having fun. House looks great. It looks amazing.
House looks amazeballs.
Yeah.
It looks amazeballs. And it's about to be
Some good times.
Some good times.
Yeah.
Some good times. I think think it's going to be some really great times. Well, I'm really glad that you came to sit in with me today. Everybody's always calling you, hitting you up, talking to you, different things. But this month, with it being Mental Awareness Month, and a lot of people probably couldn't figure the tie in, love talks. What we talking about love? When we talking about money? The love of money is the root of evil. We're not talking about the love of money. We're talking about in order to. There are some people who have trouble with their money that is not a purposeful event.
Right.
There are people who have issues with finances. One thing that I've quoted in the ad that you always say is you can't out-earn bad spending habits, right?
Right.
People think I'm making $30,000. I want to live like I'm making 50. If I could just make 70, I can live like I'm making 50.
Right. Sure.
But they don't do that.
Right.
They get to 70 and they live like they're making 90.
Yep. No, we call that lifestyle inflation, and it happens. It happens a lot as our income incrementally increases. Our lifestyle tends to creep with it.
Right.
And to your point, financial wholeness and being able to manage your finances, that is in fact self-care, right?
Right.
I talk all the time about how poverty is traumatizing, right?
Correct.
It's hard to be emotionally whole when you're hungry.
Exactly.
When you're starving,
Exactly.
when you're literally starving,
Or not knowing where your roof is.
not knowing where you're going to stay. The things that stress us out, a lot of times have to do with money issues, money problems. So, I think that so many of us were taught. It's interesting that you quoted. You and I both, came up together in the church, right? We hear that so much that, especially in the Black community, about the love of money being the root of all evil, and we that's been so ingrained in our culture that you don't talk about money, and we're not supposed to want to be wealthy, and we're not supposed to want all these things, and a lot of that is rooted in white supremacy and slavery, right?
Exactly.
That Black people
to keep you.
You'll get what's for you in heaven, right? We were told. As our ancestors
That
were told,
was in the sky.
You'll get it later. Yeah, wait, you got streets of gold, you got all this stuff, and we were told not to want to be wealthy, not to want money and riches, largely because it was the system
deferred for the by and by.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I studied theology, and I have I studied undergrad at Eastern. and then I got into Palmer's Masters of Theological. Like, I know this thing front to back. And one thing that I saw as I progressed is that, I saw how instrumental that book was in keeping our people docile and not financial savvy, period. Because it's like, oh, we got to save from that. Right. Oh no, being rich is evil. This is that, and this is that. And those things, they perpetuate.
Yep.
But on the other side of that, I'm really a big proponent of, first of all, if we lead with love, then self-care comes, and then self-care allows compassion. Then we're able to come past some issues with people and come past some things. Being in a position myself where I used to be embarrassed about my money issues. I wouldn't talk about them with people because I couldn't understand why it kept happening no matter how I prevented it, set up different things, say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then there were certain things that would happen later on that would be contrary to that. And I would beat myself up. And then I wouldn't talk to other people because I didn't want those who were in a better position to think I was any. That's when I used to care what people think. We don't care anymore. It was a time when I was afraid of that. And then as I began my therapy and counseling and thing, I understood that some of those things were tied to trauma.
Right.
And just like you said, being poor in itself is a trauma.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so what happens is it's so unusual when somebody, it's check day, the first of the month, all these things where some sort of income comes into the Black community, immediately it goes back out.
Yep.
Because we are either traumatized or with low self-esteem. We're trying to keep up with other people.
Yep.
We're trying to keep up with the Joneses. All of those things are mentally related and self-care issues.
Yep. No, I just saw a post that someone said on Twitter, and it's real. It's not the first time I've heard it, where people will go out and get designer shopping bags just to look like, just to perpetuate or show the image.
And what's in it is Ross.
Yeah.
But they have the bags where it looks like they've been to Louis Vuitton, they've been to Chanel, they've been to Tiffany's.
Yeah. No, just and the idea that you go through that much to care, just caring about what other people think about you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's disturbing to hear that, we feel like we have to go through those lenses to, just because we care so much about what someone cares. I remember I was thinking about this not very long ago, and I thought about this. What triggered the memory was a story that I saw recently on the news, and I remember. We both came up in South Philly, right?
South Philly.
Yeah. So I remember one time. South Philly has always been it's been a fairly rough section of Philly. I remember being held up at gunpoint.
Literally held up?
Held up. Okay. Yeah. So a friend of mine, she and I had just finished, we were downtown, we were shopping, and we walked back to South Philly, and we were held up. Actually, we didn't see the gun. We kind of assumed it was one of these, it was probably his finger. Right. But we didn't want to find out.
That, yeah. Right.
So, he's like, give me your stuff and your money. So, I hold my bag of clothes out, and he's like, open it up. I open it up, and it was like a cheap clothing store. He rifled through my stuff and was like, no, you can keep that. And I remember thinking, thank God my stuff was cheap.
Didn't go.
Yeah. Because he just had I had some expensive clothes, and I remember at the time I was low key offended, you don't want my stuff.
You don't want my God.
You don't want this rainbow here. What's wrong with my stuff? But it's like I've never cared about that kind of stuff. Right. I've never cared about keeping up with the Joneses. Those things were never important to me. I always say to people, because I always say, stay low, keep firing. The things that are important to people from a financial standpoint, meaning the things that keep your head in the game, right? Mm-hmm. If you have to have a certain car, or none of the work is not worth it for you, or hustling and grind culture, or side jobs, if none of that is worth it unless you have X, then go ahead and get X. But beyond that, give up those vices that are really not for you, but for other people, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that in our and it's not just Black people. I don't want Black people to feel like I'm saying that we're the only ones that have to try to perpetuate this image of wealth. We're not the only ones.
I've worked with several people in the last couple of years and seen it all over across the board.
Right. No, it's not just Black people. It's it's a human thing.
Right. And that's one of the things that got me into the coaching. And when I see things like that, be it financially or any level where someone is in a position where other people matter so much that you neglect your own inclinations.
Right.
You're doing things based off of what this one has, what this one does, and what this one says, and then you realize you've relinquished all your control. You're totally out of control.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to discuss that whole thing about the money and the mental piece is that there may be other people who are still in that same position feeling like they're embarrassed, where they care if other people know that, hey, I'm struggling.
Right.
Because it's important. Like for me, I started putting things in place. Like I had my mom put money on the side. I had an account that I couldn't touch here. You know,
Right.
you need people you can trust,
Yep.
that you can set up. And that is one of those things that one of the things I work with called battling the enemy, not the enemy, the enemy. Setting things in place against yourself so that you don't sabotage your plan.
Right. Right.
Setting things in place, and you know how look, hold that.
Yep. 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 And it's important. Yeah, it's important to put together systems and things that you can stick to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have to form a habit, because the habits have been formed after all these years. You have formed these bad habits. Now it's time to set up these better habits.
Yep. Yep.
I forgot to unlock the chat so that people could display their comments. There we go. Okay. It says message here and then. How do you do that? I knew that was going to happen at some point.
Well, I'm trying to stay in
screen. I should. Let me see if we can get back. We want to go that far. Message from the audience will appear here. Okay, so if we have any questions, we are ready for any questions.
Hi, Gigi.
Hi, Gigi. Yeah, we are ready for any questions. But meanwhile, we want to congratulate the winners of your book.
Yay.
The people who decided they wanted to wait until she came to LA to sign them.
Yay.
She is here. So we want to congratulate Candy Walker, Denise. Congratulations. Candy won twice. Candy won your book and an Amazon Echo.
She's a winner.
She's from South Philly.
Yeah. Winners.
That's what we do. Congratulations to Yolanda Moulton. Big Ayesha Selden fan.
Congratulations, Yolanda.
Congratulations, Yolanda. North Side, but we still like you. Philly, where I am from. We appreciate
anybody in Philly, we love you.
Yetta Lang down in Florida. Where is it? Deerfield? I'm sorry. I have to look it up, but she's in Florida. Yetta Lang. She is a Philadelphian as well, but she moved to Florida.
A lot of Philadelphians.
And Ryan Cunningham won.
Ryan.
Yeah, that guy.
Ryan. I know Ryan, also a Philadelphian.
Also, how about that?
Listen.
Philadelphia, by way of California. So congratulations to those four. Ayesha will be signing those books tonight, and I'm sending them off tomorrow to you guys. So we're so grateful for you guys joining the following Ayesha, following me, joining the drawing. And we so appreciate it. Now, I know you guys wanted to get your hands on that book, so I was glad to do it. And once again, those books will be going out tomorrow, autographed by the author.
I will be signing. Don't mind my signature.
This is Nipsey Hussle. He decided to
grace us with his presence.
Grace us on the show
this
today.
He's so spoiled.
So tell me, let's talk about finances from the standpoint of like when people set up trustees or that seems like on a big level, but like what could people do on a smaller scale?
Right.
Like self-protective and also like starting investing, that kind of thing on a low scale.
Yep. So, there's a lot of steps that people can take. I think one of the beginning things is Dee, to your point, that we talked about just first and foremost, changing your mindset and how you feel about money, right?
Right.
So, we've talked a lot about this. Like, it's hard to become a saver. It's hard to become the person financially you want to be if you haven't developed some of those habits, some of those patterns emotionally. If you've been traumatized by money and you're literally out working and making more and more money just to impress those around you, that's something that you first gotta,
Right.
you gotta start there and deal with that, right?
Sure.
And then once you're there, we hear this kind of this word that some of us have a visceral reaction to, that budget word, right? Sitting down and actually putting a budget is nothing more than reality of what your current situation looks like. And it's important to start grounded in reality when it comes to our finances.
Right.
And one of the best things to do in terms of budgeting, and you can do this as formally or as informally as you want. I mean, you can there are software programs that you can use, or if you want to literally on the back of a napkin write down, here's what I bring in each month, here's my net paycheck. And then you can go through, here are all of my expenses, right?
Right.
And one of the best things to do, again, grounding yourself in reality from a financial standpoint, is not putting down what you want to spend, but what you actually spend.
Correct.
So one of the best ways to go and do that is you can pull up several months, 2, 3, 4 months worth of your bank statements and seeing what is looking at those withdrawal columns and seeing, what am I actually spending, right? Because when we tend to do a budget without looking at what we've actually been spending, we typically put what we think we should be doing, right?
Correct.
Some of the numbers are hard and finite. Like, so if we've got rent or we've got a mortgage or car payment, those numbers tend to be accurate. But it's those discretionary purchases that tend to, suddenly it's much lower when we write it down.
What's actually happening in that bank.
Yeah, and it's important to look at your statements because there are things that come up. Somebody had a baby shower, you bought a gift, right? Somebody, it's holiday season, so you spent a little bit more. Those may not be typical monthly expenses, but if we're spending things on baby showers and Christmas gifts and birthday gifts and Valentine's Day, all these little things, we want to make sure that we're accurately accounting for what we're spending on the average, monthly basis, right?
Right.
And then what we have left over, so you've got what you have coming in, you have everything that you have coming out, and you can average some of those monthly expenses. That number that's left over is what we call your discretionary income, and that's what we can use to start building and growing our wealth. And what most people, when they get there, right? So you're now looking at your discretionary income number. If that number is 0, right? Or if it's negative, or if it's $50 a month, or if it's $100 a month, and that's not enough to propel you forward financially, the question then becomes, do I either work on improving my top line number, that income number, right? So do I need to increase my income? And I talk about in my book, my book, Months and Millions, I talk about that side hustle income, right? So do I need to go out and get a vending machine route, or do I need to, there are a lot of low cost startup, something supplement your 9 to 5. So I work 9 to 5, I make or earn X. Can I supplement that with a little side hustle business?
Postmating.
Postmating, door dashing, Ubering, very low cost startup business, a mobile notary business, right? Doesn't cost a whole heck of a lot. People need, mobile notaries,
right.
Particularly during the pandemic when things were shut down and things were closed. So supplementing your income with a side hustle, that's one opportunity, right? But someone may say, well, I don't have the opportunity to do that, right? They may have physical limitations. Their hours or schedule at work might be too demanding. They may have young children, single moms. They may not be in a position to do that. Although again, there are a lot of side hustles where you can, there are people who are online reselling things, right?
Right.
That arbitrage, so they're buying things relatively low price, and then they're selling it on Amazon or eBay or, some of these other websites.
Without even owning.
Yeah, that you can do from home, right? You don't have to leave your babies. You can do that stuff, that kind of stuff at home. But if there's not an opportunity, or if you're like, I want to really have an impact, I can do that. But also possibly looking at ways to cut your expenses is another way that you can increase drastically your discretionary income. And that's my favorite solution. How can I figure out how to increase my top line number, my income, and then cut some of that fat out of my expenses? Yep. And then significantly increase my discretionary income. And once you've done that, then it's time to figure out, all right, now that I've got extra money left over each month, that discretionary income is what we call your net worth builder. So how do I deploy that money into various places, right? So for those of us that care, and most of us should care more about leaving a legacy, you can take some of that number and multiply your wealth through life insurance, right? So if I'm a parent, or if I'm an auntie, or I just care about leaving a legacy in my family, I can drastically and immediately improve what I can leave behind to children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, heirs through buying life insurance, right? So if I make 100,000, a very good rule of thumb is to have 10 times what your annual income is in life insurance. We grew up, and most of our parents and our grandparents,
just to
yeah, just because of what they could afford.
Just give them the ground.
And my grandmother, fortunately, she had me. When she passed, she had a $5,000 life insurance policy, because back in the 80s, when she probably got that life insurance policy, $5,000 was
covering the funeral and and a couple bills.
Yeah, today, I mean, with the cost of burial plots and it's expensive now even
and
to
that
die.
$250 from Social Security is a disgrace.
It's a disgrace. Yeah, it's that, like, you can
all
keep
the years, all the years you've worked, you're like, okay, you want the death benefit, and you're like, what is it?
Yeah,
and they're saying $250.
Yep. So life insurance is one place to deploy capital. I always talk about just making sure that you have a good foundation. I'm a general contractor. I design and build buildings with my rental properties in Philly, and the foundation of a building is the most important part. The foundation of our finances is just as important as building any building. Correct. So that legacy leaving, the emergency reserves, making sure that you have just adequate savings, right? Something happens, a pandemic happens, right? A black swan event comes along. And you lose your job and you're not able to work. Having somewhere between 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses in a reserve account is a great foundation piece. And making sure it's also, like, people, it's so interesting to me that so many people are not participating even in a layup savings strategy, which is the workplace 401k plan, right? Your job is basically saying, if you put in $1, we'll match you $1. Right? So it's a matching contribution. So if I put in $1 and they put in $1, that is a guaranteed, immediate 100% rate of return on your money. There's no better investment than that. I mean, some jobs won't do they won't do
my job didn't match, so mine is just a savings plan.
Yeah. So if your job isn't matching, sure, like, go look at other options. But for those of you that have a workplace 401k plan and they will match you, dollar for dollar, or even if they'll match you 50 cents on the dollar, that is free money. Do not lose out on that free money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a 401k, I mean, you can borrow from it later if you want to. I mean, if you've got, you can borrow the lesser of 50% or 50,000, whichever number is lower. So if you've got $80,000 in your 401k and need to get money out to take care of other things, or you want to buy a property, you can take a $40,000 loan against the 401k. I mean, it's a great savings deal.
It is. Excellent. That's a definite hack right there, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be bothered, or I don't like money I can't touch and stuff. Like, what do you mean? That doesn't even make sense to me if someone's giving you.
Yep.
Now, the company I was working for, they're like, it's just a regular savings, and then it's like 5 years vested, and then you can go to like 25% matching, and dollar for dollar. But where my mother worked, I know they matched.
Yep.
And that is a give. I mean, like almost a dead giveaway.
Yep.
But that is like the step up, and I really believe that most people. I think that's not a step up, but what I'm saying is that's like one of the best things that could help you if you are one of the people in a position where you're having financial issues and you're having trouble saving.
Yep.
A 401k, basically penalties for taking the money early and all those kind of things kind of deter you from touching those and allowing those things. What about old school things like bonds?
The issue with bonds is that the interest rates are so low.
Pitiful.
Yeah. So, we always have to think about how our investments are going to age over time, considering that you'll always have a diminishing of your purchasing power because of inflation, right? So the cost of goods are going up, right? The cost of a stamp today versus what it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, it's a drastic difference. We call that inflation, right? Bread is going up, eggs are going up. I mean, heck, today, we're in possibly a hyperinflationary period. Like, the cost of lumber has increased, building material has increased so drastically. Crazy. Yeah, home values have gone up so substantially. The word scarce right now, just in our global economy, we hear it probably far more often. Shortages, delays. There's a chip processor delay. There's a lot being held up, and that's ultimately creating supply constraints, supply issues, which is also increasing the price of commodities, the price of goods right now. So the issue with bonds, to actually specifically answer your question, is if you're getting a 2% interest rate or a 3% interest rate, and inflation's going up by 4 or 5%,
exactly. It's holding a dollar at it's holding a dollar at that fee, at that price where it was
exactly
2 to 3 years, 6 months, 8 months, however long it is.
Exactly. So, again, it's also going to depend on the risk tolerance and the age of the person, right? So you're someone who's 60s, 70s, 80s are probably going to need some stability. They can't have a 100% stock portfolio unless grandma's real risky, go for it, Nana.
Exactly.
But usually if you're younger, you've got time to weather some of the volatility. You're probably going to have asset classes that are going to be a little bit more aggressive but can get you a higher rate of return. Real estate stocks,
Right. And I think another problem is just that when people who don't have anything get the opportunity to have something, the first thing they want to do is do something tangible or something visual something.
Ball out. Yeah. No.
And so that whole normalized Black wealth thing is so important because it kind of really works my nerves, the oohs and the ahs about when someone has money. That wears me out. And you'll go out with people and they're like gas at a Black card, or they're shocked at a Black person pulling out a platinum card, or someone's paying, and it's like, what? We have to remove ourselves from that, because that is that very thing that is saying she's different, he's different. We're all different, but that's saying, see, this person has something, or it's something that you can't reach.
Right.
People act like it's like something so foreign, and it is. Sadly.
Yeah. Well, so that's a great point, because my mission in life is to normalize Black wealth that's not a part of the Black exceptional, right? Mm-hmm. So as Black people, most of the wealthiest people that we know. I do prior to COVID, I would every summer go to a camp and talk to just young kids about money, how are you feeling about finances? Right. What have you learned? What do you know about the stock market? And one of the first questions I asked them the first summer I went was, how many of you personally know a millionaire, right? And they were personally, no. I mean, they were thinking ball players, football players,
right.
And that's one of the things in our culture when you think about we tend to see Black athletes, rappers, right. Entertainers, actors, and
then MLM.
Right. I mean, and the reality is the likelihood that someone's going to be born, almost 7 feet tall with the agility of an angel that can fly halfway down a court.
Exactly.
The probability of that happening to most of us is slim to none. Right. So I'm very vocal about and very transparent, I should say, about wealth and money and what what I do, because I want to normalize not just Black wealth, but Black wealth from normal people, right? From normal 5'2" chicks from South Philly who, I can't throw a ball. I'm slightly nerdy, a little bit eccentric, don't have the best social skills. So you can still very much be wealthy without having to be any of those other things. Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. And I walk around with the root on your arm all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, everybody.
You guys got any questions for Ayesha as we are wrapping up today? One more thing I also want to talk about with the book. When you first started, putting on, people call you all the time. People are always asking you this, where'd that come from? You decided, okay, I'm just going to share this. This is how I did it.
So it's funny because just the whole my whole social media message started. I mean, it started many moons ago. I'd always talk about things I was doing, right? Buying real estate, buying stocks. But I really got serious about it. And I was talking to someone recently. I likened it to one of my favorite movies. Remember in Forrest Gump, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. In Forrest Gump, before he goes to Vietnam, Jenny says, if you get in trouble, just run. Right? Just haul ass, right? And for so long, I mean, I was essentially from my early 20s when I came out of college to building my career, I felt very much like I was just running from poverty, from, failure, just running from, I mean, it is, I say it all the time that being like living in poverty is traumatizing, right?
Mhm.
So I spent my early 20s just
I
running.
go back there. I got to do everything I got to do, so I don't go there.
Yeah, I'm gonna just put my head down, and just run like hell. And that looked very much like just working hard to build and grow. And then at some point, when Forrest cleared that area where they were shooting bullets were whizzing by his head, he looked around and realized none of my people are with me, right? So he gets this clearing and nobody's there, right? Mm-hmm. His best friend's still, back somewhere. Right. No one was there with him. And he said, you know what, like, I'm here, I'm safe, but nobody else is. So he ran back to go get everybody. And that's kind of how I was, right? So I worked incredibly hard. And then finally, I put my head up and realized none of my people are here, right? So I started looking around, and everybody who was around me in this, that had the same financial means, they weren't the people I grew up with. They didn't look like the people I grew up with. They didn't look like me, right? So I said, I got to go back and get my people, right? And that's when I started becoming, far more vocal. And I would say, I am still learning. I'm still growing, because literally, how much I live under a rock, right? People ask me who this celebrity is, who this star, like, I don't know. I have no idea, right? So, but that's me with everything, right? If it was outside of the scope of real estate, stocks, if it was outside of the financial world, I just didn't really pay attention to it for like almost 2 decades. So now I'm like doing more to just immerse myself in statistics and data and why is the system this way, and what can we do, and I don't believe that it's singular what we have to do in order to diminish or reduce the wealth gap. I think it's multifaceted. I mean, I think that you've got education, you've got voting, you've got wealth building, you've got owning. So you've got so many different ways. My approach to help my community, our community, is the wealth piece, and that's why I'm doing everything I'm doing. The book, the consults, the social media blasts, the showing like the intimate details of how I'm building my own personal residence. Like that's why I do all of that. To make sure, and I get so many great messages. I get so many great DMs. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for the no cap, just showing like that this is possible. Right. And that's what I want to continue trying to do.
Excellent. And that's really, it's really funny, because that is what started me with this. It was like being in the dark for so many years, being just saying, I was traumatized, I had this, I had that, and owning so much of that darkness, and knowing so many people that do the same. Once I got to this place of wholeness and life and just living on my terms and that freedom, all I thought, it's like, okay, now on this side, because I had to cut so many people, because so many things happened, it's like, yo, this feels great.
Yeah.
Whole feels good, like really, really good. Like I got to go back and help some people. Yeah. Like really, because we are our own enemy when it comes to a lot of the mental things. If there's any kind of self-esteem issues, regardless to where it came from, regardless to who may have traumatized you, regardless to what may have traumatized you, the root is always what you think about it. The power gets taken back from the individuals, from the person, from the thing, or whatever that is, when you decide, look, I want to take control of my life. And from this point forward, this is not going to be, that is not going to be, this is not going to be. So therefore, all the things that you taught people for the past, like for me, everything I taught people those first 50 years, I had to unteach what I taught so they would learn something different, because I'm no longer living that way. Right. And then those people who didn't want to adapt, then I had to live without them. However, knowing and realizing your full power, that right there gets you on the track to do the next things. And that's why I wanted you to come, because it's like, okay, after I'm working on this, I can now start working on those things outside of me, because until you build up that love, that care, that concern, that choosing of yourself every day and rinsing and repeating tomorrow and deciding tomorrow she's first and deciding the next day she's first, until that happens, then you will not be able to prioritize all those other things.
Sure.
So that's the main reason why I wanted you here, aside from the fact that, I thought we would be able to come live from El Chapo and like give people a tour, but the construction that doesn't end, it just goes on and on, my friend. I thought we'd be able to walk through, but they'd probably be back behind us going,
Yep. No, that's actually happening there. I was there earlier. Yeah, that's exactly what's
and that's all I could imagine was we stop and they go, oh, I think maybe somebody's. So, and since that wasn't going to work. So maybe, the next time we will definitely be coming live from El Chapo, the finished product.
The finished
The
El Chapo. Yeah.
Finished. The kind that I can actually stand in front of, like, people like, I saw the video of them bringing the stove in. You were all excited. You didn't show us any pictures of the stove. I said, I can't show you any pictures of the stove until I'll show you later.
Yeah. No, she ain't in.
She not. She got her back to us.
Mm-hmm.
And she's standing in the corner, wondering why she's on punishment.
She's mad.
She's angry, wondering why she's on punishment. So thanks again for joining us on Love Talk. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Coach Dee.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And again, those books will be going out. Watch next week. Next week is May 20th. I am going to have Micah McDonald, the designer.
Yeah, Micah.
Listen, the fashion stylist for Miss Regina King.
Yeah.
He's going to be on here.
Slaying her look.
Slaying her. He's killing. I'm so excited about that. We're going to be talking about when you love what you do with Mr. Micah McDonald next week. Until then, this is Love Talk with Coach Dee. I'm your girl, Coach Dee, signing off. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah. 40 and fabulous.
Why Nick gotta be on the
On screen.